Alright, so boom. Like most Resident Evil fans, I was hyped for Resident Evil 8 to drop. Now, my reason was because I was interested to see what happens after Resident Evil 6 and 7. Just like anybody who likes a series enough to dive deeper into the lore of a story. I saw that there was some alleged leaked info some years back, like maybe 2018 or 2019, give or take. Now, the leak said that Resident Evil 8 was confirmed and that some characters were going to be making a comeback. They said cats like Chris, Leon, Jill, Ada, and even Jake were probably going to be making a comeback and co-starring along Ethan, who was still going to be the main character the entire time. Now, I'm already hyped as hell to see the older characters and next generation characters interact with each other. And then they said there was going to be like vampires and werewolves, and I'm like, hold up, how the fuck y'all gonna have those characters? But then I remembered, if zombies could be caused by a virus, then why not vampires and werewolf type creatures of any sort? But most likely they won't do the classic version where, you know, their weaknesses would be like something magic based, and they'll likely have a science based weakness, which of course that's the route that they took. Now ultimately though, the whole giant Resident Evil all-star reunion unfortunately never came to fruition. The only things that were confirmed were Chris, Ethan, and certain creatures. Now I say all that because like this isn't really a review, it's more of a what Resident Evil 8 could have been. I pre-ordered the deluxe edition of the game. It gets here, I play it, I beat it about 6 times. You know, I enjoyed the game overall, but there's some stuff I still feel like was missing. First off, the game felt a bit short in retrospect. Overall, the 4 lords, mainly Lady D, felt like they were hardly in the game for real. Personally, I feel like each of the 4 lords should have had at least maybe an hour or 2 worth of screen time. I'm talking dialogue, cutscenes, both from Ethan's perspective as well as when Ethan is nowhere in the vicinity, and overall involvement in the story. And then I know some people would ask, but yo, like wouldn't that make the game a bit too long? Listen bro, if I'm paying like $60 to $70 for a video game, I don't really give a slice of a fuck if it had a whole 24 hours worth of content. Shit, I just beat Elden Ring like a few months ago and I'm still not done exploring that shit. Now, I pretty much compiled like a small list of things I feel like they could have included in the game, and I'm talking about from like regular enemies to the 4 lords to Mother Miranda. As far as the grunts go, I'd say Capcom did a fine job with the enemy designs and their functions, but like with any work of art, there's always something that can be improved on. For example, the Lycans, they could have had just a bit more variety in design. You had your messy haired Lycan, bald headed Lycan, you had the shirtless variant of both and the taller, buffer, stronger, chained up version of both, and then there was this giant black furred werewolf looking creature. And honestly, I felt like there could have just been just a little bit more variety. Like some of the Lycans may have like an anorexic build, or others may have missing body parts. Let's say like one of them has like missing eyes, so the only way that they can find you is by sound and smell, you know, and they're also bigger and stronger than the other ones, so you can't just run up on them and just slice away at them with the pocket knife without getting torn apart. Now the Lycans on horseback, I can understand why they weren't added. I guess mechanically it didn't mix well with the gameplay. Maybe they could only be used in cutscenes, but I ain't really too mad about that. As for the ghouls in Lady D's castle, it's honestly a shame that the whole thing with the heads exploding from the gun blast only extends to the Lycans. No matter how many times I aim for headshots, and I'm talking about whether that was with a pistol or a shotgun, from far away or up and close, you know, the ghouls, they just fell over, and it was kind of whack. Like also, I think there should have at least been a little bit more variety in their design too. You know, some of them could have been like almost nude, whereas others had on rags to show that some had it worse than others, as well as to show that some have been down in the depths of the castle longer than others have. You know, some of the ghouls should have also had like a more fresher, monstrous appearance, like they were they just recently turned into that. And they could have had on like a dirty, torn up maid outfit to show that, you know, their transformation was actually more recent. Other than that, I can't really think about much else on their part. On to the lords in the mini boss fights. Capcom really shouldn't have tried to sell the whole idea of Resident Evil 8 being open world, because it's really not, bro. You can explore around the village. Even Mirror's Edge wasn't really open world as they claim it was. There's the free roam aspect where, you know, you can just parkour your way around all over the city rooftops and all that shit, but there's still a linear structure to how the game has to be played though. You can't fight the bosses in any random order like how you can pick and choose which gangs to fight in Saints Row 2. In that gang, you have the Brotherhood, the Sons of Samdi, and the Ronin. And there's no particular order that you have to fight them in. If you want to fight the Samdi, then the Ronin, then the Brotherhood, you can do that. If you want to fight the Brotherhood and then the Samdi and then the Ronin, you can also do that, and it doesn't affect how the game plays out. You could even fight all 3 of the gangs bit by bit, and still the game will play out the way it's supposed to. You don't even have to beat one gang entirely before you can fight another one. But if a game is set up to where it's like you have to go from this part to this part, because if you don't finish this level, you can't go to that level, that really contradicts the whole thing about an open world game. Even in Elden Ring, it's like if you can find a portal or an elevator to another part of the map, you can skip from Limgrave and just go straight to Caelid without having to fight the first boss. But anyway, Castle Dimitrescu was one of the more interesting parts of the game. You know, the castle itself was an interesting character because it had so many areas to explore. Lady D and her daughters could have definitely been utilized more effectively in the castle. You know, first off, the daughters are killed off like way too easily and too early on, in my opinion. Like I said, there should have been some cutscenes of them having dialogue to build them up as like more believable threats. For example, you could show them actually torturing some like remaining maids, and assuming that there's any maids left at this point. And then when you finally get to fight them, they shouldn't die exactly, but they should fall into like this dormant death-like state. And I'll say why in a bit. Now, as we know, Lady D becomes more and more distraught with each death of her daughters. What would have been a good idea is to have Lady D be this relentless pursuer that the first time she chases you should be before any of the daughters are killed. So because of this, she'll chase you around in a more playful, more lenient type of way. You know, like she'll still attack you, but essentially she's just playing with her food. But with each daughter's death, she becomes more and more hateful and bloodlusted, which means that she'll start chasing you even faster than before. She'll use grab hits as opposed to just trying to slice the shit out of you, and the dialogue gets even more vulgar and sadistic. So by the time you take out the last daughter, Lady D just simply goes berserk. Now it's at the point where she's screaming out a whole bunch of medieval shit that she's gonna unleash on Ethan the second she gets her hands on him. I mean, she really doesn't care about anything at this point. I mean, she's breaking all of her furniture, her fine china, she's jumping over the rails, and she's jumping over the rails on the stairs to cut you off from escaping. She's walking even faster. She even starts busting through doors and breaking down the walls in her own damn house like Mr. X in Resident Evil 2. As long as she gets to kill your ass, that's really all that matters to her. And in addition to that, her physical appearance could start to change, mainly with her face. Like you can see her sort of like transforming, but she's trying to resist it. But then when it's time for the boss fight, remember, I said that the daughters shouldn't be killed but put into a death-like state. Now the reason why is because when Lady D transforms, before she does, she actually ends up summoning the Cadeau parasites from the remains of her daughters, and they like fuse into her, which adds to her power. And then she turns into the whole Dark Souls dragon tentacle demon monster looking thing, and then the final battle happens. But maybe you don't actually end up killing her off exactly. Maybe she gets weakened and just flies away to recover somewhere, and maybe you run into her later on in the game. Or maybe she's even saved for like a later Resident Evil game, or maybe even a DLC. Now for House Beneviento, like I appreciated the whole Silent Hill psychological aspect of House Beneviento, but the biggest problem I had with that, it's way too damn short, bro. Like Donna hardly has any dialogue aside from like 6 words, and that mutated Toxic Avenger grasshopper legs looking ass giant baby was like the only actual scary part of that level. I don't know, maybe to improve the level they could have had like Donna do more, like I don't know, make you hallucinate that the Angie doll was like a giant head that spat out Cadeau infected enemies. Maybe they could look like malformed versions of Rose that got splashed with chemical waste like old boy from RoboCop. All of this is basically just a way to mess with Ethan's mind some more. Then lastly, Donna could try to kill Ethan herself, and then she'd either be beaten but then spared or killed according to the player's choice. Honestly, I could have appreciated a scenario like that more. Now for House Moreau. Man, when I tell you this level itself was a wasted opportunity, specifically with the grunts in this level. I mean, all it was just, the enemies were just the same lichens from the village. They just got reused for this level. And I'm like, bruh, if Moreau is designed to be this deformed merman looking ass creature, then why shouldn't his level's enemies be a mirror reflection of that? It's the perfect scenario to have enemies that look like the deep ones from the Cthulhu mythos, or even the Kappa from Japanese mythology. It's like you could have some creatures who are experiments, and instead of them just turning into another werewolf, like they could turn into some monstrous mer beings that jump out of the water to attack you. Maybe the stronger enemies try to fight you up close and in person, and the weaker enemies try to fight you at a distance by spitting out some kind of acidic bile or something like that. Personally, that would have been refreshing. The boss fight wasn't too bad though. I ain't gonna lie, that was actually pretty fun. Lastly, House Heisenberg. This level wasn't too bad. To quote Spear Hunter, it actually did look like something out of like Tetsuo the Iron Man. The cyborgs were actually like a pretty nice new enemy design, but the issue with this level is that it felt like it went on for just a bit too damn long. After a while of traversing this landscape of machines, junk, and scrap metal, you just want to get the hell out of there. But maybe that's just me thinking that. Now, I do wish they had Heisenberg act as some sort of enemy stalker for that level, but only for like certain sections. Now, the boss fight wasn't too bad though. You know, an option to join forces with Heisenberg would have been dope too. You know, could have had potential for like some alternate endings like in RE7. Now, Mother Miranda. I honestly feel like Mother Miranda could have been used for 2 more Resident Evil games after 8. You know, I mean, she definitely had potential to be the new main villain, but just to put it out there, like, I highly doubt there's gonna be a villain that'll actually be able to top Albert Wesker. That motherfucker was the villain of Resident Evil, and he didn't even have to appear in every game just for his presence to be felt. Just like how The Matrix won't have a better villain than Agent Smith. Now, like with Lady D, Miranda's role did feel rather short. This is the exact reason why there should have been cutscenes showing her and all the other lords doing, you know, villain stuff. Because, you know, she had a cool character design, and her boss form is obviously from some Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3 type shit. Not to mention that if this game is where Ethan's story ends, then Rose could have had fought Mother Miranda in Resident Evil 9, being that she has special powers and all that. You know, Miranda would probably get injured in RE8 and she had to flee and heal. And then in RE9, I guess Rose has to get revenge on Miranda for killing her pops because, you know, through the Megamycete, she saw everything that happened. Maybe if Lady D didn't die in the game, she could have appeared as like a possible enemy or maybe a supporting character, because now she also saw what happened through the Megamycete and realized that Mother Miranda really didn't give 2 shits about her and she just wants revenge at that point too. It could have possibly been some kind of redemption arc for Lady D. I don't know, I guess have her go out fighting the same person that she thought was her savior. Now lastly, we have Ethan. I'll admit he wasn't bad for like a newer generation type of character, but it honestly does get annoying with the lengths that the game goes through just to keep you from seeing his face, to the point it just feels convoluted as all hell, bro. I mean, like, ain't no mirrors, there's no reflective surfaces you can see him off of, nothing. They just really don't want you to see his face. Even in the DLC, they only let you see his mouth move. They'll put the camera at all these weird ass random angles so that we can see him, but we still can't see what he looks like in the cutscenes, you know, when he's talking to like Rose and Mother Miranda and all that shit. I mean, even his in-game character trophy has his entire face blacked out, and I'm like,
what kind of shit is that?
What is the point in hiding his face? Like, it's one thing to say we can't show his face in first person because, you know, mechanically that wouldn't work and all that weird shit. Story-wise, there's no good reason to hide his face, but old boy sacrificing himself to blow up the Megamycete would have been the perfect moment, because it could have showed some tears flowing down his face because, you know, he's sad that he won't get to be a father to Rose after going through all that hell just to save her. Then we see him smiling knowing that she'll be safe with Chris Redfield, and then he blasts the Megamycete up, and that's the first and last time that we ever see Ethan's face. But I don't know, like, all in all though, like, I thought the game was dope, and as usual, I'm waiting to see what happens next. Played it about 6 times. Only thing I didn't accomplish was unlocking that lightsaber, which honestly I don't really care to anymore. You know, it's getting the triple S rank in Mercenaries mode is a bitch, I ain't gonna lie. The Shadow of Rose DLC wasn't too bad either. I had hoped that we'd see the 4 Lords make a return, at least for maybe some cameo appearances. Like, maybe 10 minutes of screen time wouldn't have been so bad, but only the Duke, Evelyn, and Mother Miranda made a return. Not gonna lie though, I thought Rose would have been the new main character for Resident Evil 9, but according to what Capcom said, this is the conclusion of the story of the Winters family. But I don't know, maybe they're not getting rid of her, they're just putting her on the back burner for future games. So, you know, maybe she'll come back as like one of the next generation characters, since by that point in time, all of the OG characters like Chris, Jill, Leon, Ada, and Claire, and all the others will like be in their 60s and probably be retired background characters. The characters like Jake, Sheva, Helena, and Sherry, you know, they'll still be relatively young enough to continue on for a few more games. To be honest, I just don't see Capcom killing off the OG characters, just like how I doubt they'd ever kill off the OG Street Fighter characters. They would just move the older characters to the background and just let the newer generation characters slowly come to the forefront. That's just my 2 cents. Let me know what y'all think and we can chop that up in the comment section. Peace.